Hi everyone, my name is Parth and I'm back with another video. This video will give the user insights to some basic SQL commands which we use in our programming for the database. So let's get started. So the agenda would be we would be covering some basics about database. So we'll be talking about relational database and then we'll see some basic SQL commands related to relational database management system. So we'll start with select from statement, followed by where, followed by order by, group by, and finally the having statement. So if you talk about relational database management system, here in the database, data is stored in form of tables. So you can see in the picture, there is a database. The database you can say it is a container. Inside those database, we have multiple tables. The yellow boxes which you can see in the screen are the tables, and these tables are inside a database. Now, each table consists of columns and rows. So I can see on the right hand side of the picture, we have taken example of one table, and you can see it has 5 columns, which are A, B, C, D, and E. And it has 15 rows from 1 to 15. So we can say that each table is in a form of columns and rows, and each column is a field in a record. So you can say that one row is equal to one record in a table, and each column in a row or a record is known as a field. And for every column, we have a column name associated with it. Now, as I mentioned earlier, that this table you can see has 15 rows. So here each row you can see it represents a record, one record for this table. So you can see that there are 15 records for this table and 5 fields. And by 5 fields, I mean to say 5 columns. And when we say that how many records we have, we are basically referring to how many rows we have, or we are basically referring to the number of rows this table has. Let's start with SQL commands. So SQL stands for structured query language. So it's a structured language. Like if I talk about English language, it's a structured language, right? There's a structure of a sentence. Similarly, SQL is a database programming language, and it is also a structured language. The basic, or I can say the very basic command for getting the data from a table, which is in a database, is to select the data from a table. So you would not be surprised. To select a data from the table, we use two keywords, select and from. And these two keywords are the core of any SQL statement. So the syntax is very simple. For a select from statement, you write select keyword, followed by column name, followed by from keyword, and followed by the table name. Now, there are different ways of selecting data depending on the scenario or depending upon what do you want to do. So there are basically 4 ways, one of which we have already seen in a previous slide, where where we are selecting one column. Now the remaining 3 we'll discuss them one by one. So first is, if you want to select more than one column from a table, you write select column name 1, comma, column name 2, and so on from table name. Next case is if you want to select all the columns from your table, you write select star. So star means asterisk symbol in your keyboard. It means all. So select star from table name. So it will select all the columns from your table. Another case could be if you want to select some unique values from your table, you use select followed by distinct keyword. So this distinct keywords will not give you duplicate values in the output. So the syntax for that is select distinct column name from table name. After select and from statement, we have where statement. So sometimes there might be a situation where we want to retrieve not all the data from a table, but only a subset or only a part of the data from the table. In those cases, we use the where condition, where keyword, or you can say where statement. Syntax for where keyword is very simple. So it's like select column name from table name where, and after that you put a condition. So condition here tells us how we want the data to be filtered. So if you want not the complete data from a table, but only a portion or a subset of it, we use a where condition. And after the where keyword, we put a condition. So based on the condition, the data is filtered and presented before us. After where, we can say where clause, next is order by. So now let's say that when we want to list the result in a particular order, so we are getting the output or data from the table, but we want to sort it maybe in ascending order or descending order. For that purposes, we use order by keyword, which is basically at the end of a SQL statement. So order by statement always comes when we are about to finish our SQL statement. The syntax is very simple. Select column name from table name where condition, if there is any, followed by order space by column name. And if we want it in ascending order, we can write ASC. And if we want to sort the data in descending order, we use DESC. Now, in order to understand the next statement, which is group by and having, we need to get familiarized with some mathematical functions which we have in our SQL programming language. So there are some built-in functions, and the common ones are sum, average, count, max, and min. So sum is used if you want to do a sum. Suppose there is a column which is storing some integer values and you want to get the sum. So for that, you will use sum function. If you want to get the average of that, you will get the average. If you want to count how many records are there in the table, you can use count function. To print the maximum or the minimum value from all the records for a particular column, we use maximum or minimum function respectively. Next statement is group by. So let's understand this first with a simple example. Let's say that on the right hand side, you can see we have a sales history table. It has three columns: date, store, and sales amount. Let us say that we want to find the maximum or the highest sales amount across all the stores. So for that, we'll use the max function. So we'll write a query, select max of sales amount from sales history table. Let's move on. Next, let us say that we want the highest sales amount for each store this time. So we will just we'll do a modification to our select query, and the select query this time will become select store, comma, max of sales amount from sales history table. However, this query which we wrote will not give us the desired output. For that, the select query is not enough. So in order to get the proper result, we'll use the group by keyword with the select query. So here in the following query, when we put the group by keyword in our SQL statement, it will tell the SQL statement to apply the max function for each store. So the query will become select store, comma, max of sales amount from sales history table group by store. So it will basically what it will do based on each group, each store, it will group the store and the maximum sales amount based on each store because we are using group by keyword here, and we will get our desired output. So the syntax for group by clause is select column 1 function column 2. This function could be sum or average or count or max or minimum from table name where condition, if any, group by column name. Finally, we have the having clause. There are some situations where we want to do the filtering after we get the data based on the grouping. In those scenarios, we cannot use where to filter the data based on the result of a function because we need to specify the filtering condition after the SQL has calculated the function. And consequently, any filtering condition based on the function needs to be specified after the group by clause. So we can say that we cannot use the where keyword because it is always used before the group by clause. That is with the select and from statement. So in order to filter the data we get from the group by clause, we use the having keyword. So the syntax for having keyword is select column name function of column name 2 from table name group by column name, and then we put the having condition, and the condition would be based on our function which was there in the select query. So let's move back to our previous example where we have a sales history table and we have 3 columns: date, store, and sales amount. Now, if we want to sum the sales amount for each store, but there is a condition, we want to see the results for only those stores where the total sales amount is greater than 100. So we will use having clause along with group by, and the query will be modified to select store, comma, sum of sales amount from sales history table group by store having sum of sales amount greater than 100. Lastly, let's see the order of SQL statements. So we have, if we have all these clauses in our SQL statement, so the order of execution will be in this order. First, the select query with the from will get executed, followed by where condition, followed by group by clause, followed by having condition, and the order by clause. Well, thank you very much. I hope you have gathered some basic information about this SQL database basics and commands. Thank you very much, and I will see you in some other video.